Welcome back, American coin hunter. The 1982 1-cent coin is one of the most mysterious, misunderstood, and potentially valuable pennies ever produced by the United States Mint, and its story begins in a year of economic pressure, rising metal prices, and a silent transformation that forever changed the Lincoln cent. To the average person, a 1982 penny looks ordinary, simple, and almost worthless, something tossed into jars, left in pockets, or forgotten in drawers. But to experienced collectors, error hunters, and numismatic historians, this single year represents chaos at the mint, confusion in metal composition, and the birth of some of the most dramatic error coins ever discovered in American coinage history. In 1982, the U.S. Mint made a historic decision to change the metal composition of the 1-cent coin because the price of copper had risen so high that it was costing more than 1 cent to manufacture a single penny, a situation that alarmed government officials and forced immediate action. Before 1982, Lincoln cents were made primarily of copper, with a composition of approximately 95% copper and 5% zinc, weighing about 3.11 grams. But starting in 1982, the Mint introduced a new zinc-based cent with a thin copper plating, reducing the weight to approximately 2.5 grams. What makes 1982 extraordinary is that both copper and zinc cents were produced in the same year at the same mints, using multiple die varieties, creating a perfect storm of variations, errors, and transitional pieces that still confuse collectors decades later. During this period, the Mint struck pennies at Philadelphia and Denver, and incredibly, there were multiple obverse and reverse designs used, including large date and small date varieties, each paired with either copper or zinc compositions, resulting in at least 7 officially recognized major varieties and several unofficial or controversial ones that remain the subject of heated debate in the numismatic community. The coin symbol or identifying marks on the 1982 cent follow the traditional Lincoln cent design language, featuring Abraham Lincoln's right-facing profile on the obverse, originally designed by Victor David Brenner in 1909, with the word Liberty to the left, In God We Trust along the top rim, and the date 1982 positioned to the right of Lincoln's bust, while Denver minted coins carry a small D mint mark just below the date, and Philadelphia coins from this year notably lack a mint mark entirely. The reverse design, until 2008, featured the Lincoln Memorial, designed by Frank Gasparo, with United States of America along the top, 1 cent at the bottom, and E Pluribus Unum above the memorial, a design that itself holds hidden symbolism, including a tiny statue of Lincoln visible between the columns, making the Lincoln cent one of the few U.S. coins to depict the same person on both sides. The weight of the 1982 penny is one of the most critical factors in determining its potential value, as copper cents weigh approximately 3.11 grams, while zinc cents weigh approximately 2.5 grams, and even a small deviation from these standards can indicate an error, an off-metal strike, or a transitional planchet, all of which can dramatically increase a coin's worth. Collectors often use digital scales accurate to at least 2 decimal places to identify copper versus zinc cents, and this simple test has led to the discovery of extremely rare errors, including copper small date pennies that were never officially intended for circulation. Among these, the most famous is the 1982 D small date copper cent, a coin that theoretically should not exist according to official mint records, yet a small number have surfaced, verified by professional grading services, and valued at tens of thousands of dollars each due to their extreme rarity and historical significance. Errors play a massive role in the fascination surrounding the 1982 penny, and this year produced an unusually high number of mint mistakes due to the rapid transition in metal composition and die usage. Some of the most notable errors include off-center strikes, where the design is misaligned and part of the coin is blank, double strikes where the coin is struck more than once creating overlapping images, die cracks that form raised lines across the surface, cut errors where chunks of the die break off leaving large blobs of metal, clipped planchets where part of the coin is missing due to cutting errors, and brockage errors where one coin impresses its design onto another. There are also dramatic double die errors on both the obverse and reverse, showing visible doubling in the date, lettering, or Lincoln's profile, which can be seen clearly without magnification on some examples, and are highly prized by collectors. One of the most controversial and widely discussed topics related to the 1982 penny is the claim of an ultra-rare error or transitional coin being worth an astronomical sum, sometimes cited in viral videos, social media posts, and sensational headlines as reaching values as high as $261 million. While no verified public auction has ever recorded a single 1982 penny selling for such a figure, the legend persists because of the theoretical value placed on a unique, one-of-kind error coin, such as a perfectly preserved transitional copper small date struck at Denver, combined with a dramatic mint error authenticated beyond any doubt and owned by a collector unwilling to sell. In numismatics, value is not only determined by metal content or age, but also by rarity, demand, historical importance, and the stories attached to a coin, and in theory, a completely unique specimen could command an unprecedented price if two or more extremely wealthy collectors were determined to own it. The history of the Lincoln cent itself adds emotional and cultural weight to the 1982 penny, as the series was originally introduced in 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, making it the first regularly circulating U.S. coin to feature a real historical person rather than a symbolic figure like Liberty. By 1982, the Lincoln cent had already become the longest-running design in U.S. coinage history, and the metal change that year marked the end of the traditional copper penny, making all copper cents from 1982 an earlier part of a closed chapter in American monetary history. This transition reflects broader economic shifts, including inflation, rising commodity prices, and the government's struggle to maintain affordable coinage, turning the humble penny into a symbol of economic adaptation and compromise. Collectors today actively search rolls, old jars, estate collections, and inherited coin hoards for 1982 pennies, carefully examining date styles, weighing each coin, and listening to the distinctive sound differences between copper and zinc when dropped, a simple but surprisingly effective method used by seasoned coin hunters. The sound of copper is softer and more solid, while zinc produces a sharper, lighter ring, and although this test is not definitive, it often leads to further examination. Professional grading services like PCGS and NGC play a crucial role in authenticating and valuing 1982 penny errors, using advanced equipment to analyze metal composition, die characteristics, and strike quality, and coins certified by these organizations command significantly higher prices than raw, uncertified examples. Market value for 1982 pennies varies dramatically depending on the specific variety and condition, with common zinc large date coins worth only face value, copper large date coins worth slightly more due to copper content, and rare varieties like the 1982 small date copper or dramatic mint errors selling for thousands or even tens of thousands of dollars at auction. Mint state examples with full original luster, sharp strikes, and no damage are especially desirable, and condition is graded on a scale from poor to mint state 70. The story deepens even further when you begin to understand how chaotic the minting environment truly was in 1982, because this was not a clean, overnight switch from copper to zinc, but a messy, overlapping process where old planchets, new planchets, old dies, and new dies were all moving through the system at the same time, sometimes without clear documentation, which is why so many unexplained anomalies exist today. Workers at the mint were under pressure to keep production numbers high, while simultaneously adapting to new materials that behaved differently under striking pressure, and zinc planchets required different handling because they were softer, lighter, and more prone to damage than solid copper ones. This led to adjustments in striking force, die life, and quality control, and during these adjustments, mistakes happened. Mistakes that today form the backbone of some of the most valuable and sought-after 1982 penny errors. One of the most fascinating aspects of the 1982 penny is how transitional errors could occur when a copper planchet was accidentally fed into presses set up for zinc planchets or vice versa, producing coins that show unusual strike characteristics, weakness in certain design areas, or abnormal rim thickness. Some coins display incomplete details because the striking pressure was optimized for a different metal, while others show unusually sharp features that stand out compared to normal circulation strikes. These subtle clues help experts determine whether a coin is a genuine transitional error or simply a damaged or altered piece, which is a critical distinction in a market where values can jump from a few cents to tens of thousands of dollars based on authenticity alone. Collectors often talk about the emotional moment of discovery, when a routine roll search suddenly becomes unforgettable. Imagine opening a standard roll of pennies from a bank, expecting nothing more than modern zinc cents, and suddenly spotting a 1982 penny with a date style that looks just a little different, followed by the unmistakable heavier feel of copper when you place it in your hand. That moment triggers a chain reaction of excitement, careful weighing, magnification, comparison with known examples, and sometimes even professional submission for grading. Many well-known 1982 penny discoveries began exactly this way, not in vaults or museums, but in everyday circulation, reinforcing the idea that hidden treasures can still exist in modern coinage. The question of value is inseparable from psychology, and the 1982 penny market is driven as much by belief and perception as by hard data. When people hear numbers like millions or hundreds of millions of dollars, it captures the imagination and fuels widespread searching, even if the likelihood of finding such an extreme example is incredibly small. This phenomenon mirrors gold rushes and lottery fever, where the dream itself becomes part of the reward. In numismatics, these stories help expand the hobby, bringing in new participants who might otherwise never have paid attention to coins, and even if they never find a record-breaking specimen, they often gain knowledge, appreciation, and a deeper connection to history along the way. The metal science behind the 1982 penny also plays a crucial role in its long-term preservation and value. Copper cents tend to age gracefully, developing rich brown, red-brown, or even original red surfaces that collectors prize, while zinc cents are notorious for corrosion, bubbling, and degradation once the thin copper plating is compromised. This means that over time, high-grade zinc cents will become increasingly scarce, especially those that have never circulated and retain flawless surfaces. As decades pass, this scarcity may lead to a re-evaluation of zinc cent values, particularly for pristine examples that survive against the odds, adding another layer of complexity to the 1982 market. Another element that cannot be ignored is the role of misinformation and exaggeration, which spreads rapidly online and often blurs the line between documented fact and speculative fantasy. Claims of pennies worth hundreds of millions of dollars often omit critical details, such as the absence of verified sales, the difference between asking prices and realized prices, or the specific conditions required for such valuations to even be theoretically possible. Experienced collectors understand this distinction, but newcomers can be misled, which is why education is such an important part of the numismatic community. The 1982 penny serves as a perfect teaching tool, illustrating how rarity, documentation, grading, and demand all intersect to determine value. Despite the hype, there is no denying that certain 1982 penny varieties are genuinely rare and command impressive prices. The copper small date variety, particularly from Denver, remains one of the most elusive modern U.S. coins, with confirmed examples numbering only in the handfuls. Each time one appears at auction, it attracts intense interest and competitive bidding, often exceeding estimates and setting new benchmarks for modern penny values. These sales reinforce the legitimacy of the 1982 penny as a serious collectible rather than just an internet myth. The cultural significance of the penny itself adds another emotional layer to this story. The 1-cent coin has long been associated with thrift, luck, and everyday life in America, appearing in sayings, superstitions, and childhood memories. Finding a valuable penny challenges the assumption that small things are insignificant, and this symbolic reversal resonates deeply with people from all walks of life. The 1982 penny, standing at the crossroads of tradition and change, embodies this idea perfectly, representing the last breath of the classic copper cent and the uncertain beginning of a new era. As collectors continue to study die varieties, metallurgical composition, and mint records, new theories emerge about undocumented combinations and lost production runs. Some believe that additional rare varieties remain undiscovered, sitting unnoticed in collections or circulation, while others argue that the known population is likely complete. This debate keeps interest alive and ensures that the 1982 penny remains a topic of active research rather than a closed chapter. Every newly authenticated coin has the potential to rewrite assumptions and reshape market values, reminding everyone that numismatics is a living field, not a static one, that the long-term outlook for the 1982 penny is shaped by generational shifts in collecting habits. Younger collectors, raised in a digital age, are drawn to dramatic stories, viral discoveries, and modern coins with unexpected value, making the 1982 penny especially appealing. Unlike ancient or colonial coins that feel distant, the 1982 penny exists within living memory, creating a sense of accessibility and personal connection. This demographic trend could support sustained demand and rising prices for key varieties well into the future. As the narrative continues, it becomes impossible to separate the 1982 penny from the broader behavior of collectors and investors who began to recognize that modern coins could carry significance equal to, or even greater than, much older issues. For decades, many believed that only ancient, gold, or silver coins could ever be truly valuable, but the events surrounding the 1982 cent quietly challenged that belief. When reports started circulating about rare composition errors and transitional strikes, seasoned collectors initially reacted with skepticism, yet as authenticated examples emerged, that skepticism slowly turned into serious attention. This shift marked a turning point where modern mint errors gained legitimacy, and the 1982 penny stood at the center of that transformation point. One of the most intriguing factors is how subtle some of these valuable differences are, often invisible to the untrained eye. Two pennies from 1982 can look identical at first glance, both brown from circulation, both bearing Lincoln's familiar profile, yet one may be worth 1 cent while the other could represent thousands of dollars in value. This razor-thin line between ordinary and extraordinary forces collectors to slow down, to study details like rim thickness, strike sharpness, and even the texture of the metal surface. Copper cents tend to show smoother, richer toning over time, while zinc cents often develop a dull, lifeless appearance once circulation sets in. These clues, combined with precise weight measurements, form a language that experienced numismatists learn to read fluently. Stories from collectors who discovered rare 1982 pennies often share common themes of disbelief, patience, and eventual validation. Many recount finding a coin they suspected was unusual, only to have that suspicion dismissed by friends or even local dealers unfamiliar with the specific varieties. It is not uncommon for a collector to hold on to a coin for years before finally submitting it to a professional grading service, sometimes driven by a lingering sense that it might be special. When the results come back, confirming a rare composition or error, the emotional impact can be overwhelming, transforming a small copper disc into a symbol of perseverance and intuition. The authentication process itself adds another layer of drama and importance to the 1982 penny story. Professional grading companies use advanced tools such as X-ray fluorescence to analyze metal content without damaging the coin, confirming whether a cent is truly copper or zinc and identifying any anomalies in composition. Microscopic examination reveals dye markers, flow lines, and strike characteristics that help determine whether an error occurred during minting or resulted from post-mint damage. This rigorous process is essential because the market places enormous trust in third-party certification, and without it, even genuine rare coins may struggle to achieve their full potential value. Auction behavior surrounding rare 1982 pennies offers insight into how markets react to scarcity and narrative. When a confirmed rare variety appears at auction, bidding often starts cautiously, then accelerates rapidly as collectors realize how few opportunities exist to acquire such a piece. Prices can climb dramatically in the final moments, driven by emotion as much as logic, as bidders imagine the prestige of ownership and the possibility of future appreciation. These moments are where theoretical value meets real money, and they demonstrate how rarity, demand, and timing converge in powerful ways. The idea of a $261 million valuation, while not grounded in documented sales, persists because it represents the ultimate expression of these forces taken to an extreme. In theory, if a coin were truly unique, historically significant, perfectly preserved, and surrounded by global attention, its value would be limited only by what the wealthiest collectors are willing to pay. This concept fuels imagination and keeps people searching, even if the practical odds are vanishingly small. In this sense, the number itself becomes less important than what it symbolizes: the belief that something life-changing could be hiding in plain sight. From a historical perspective, the 1982 penny also marks a philosophical shift in how governments approach coinage. The move away from copper was not just a technical adjustment, but a reflection of changing economic realities and the declining purchasing power of small denominations. As inflation continued in subsequent decades, debates about the usefulness of the penny intensified, leading some to question whether the 1-cent coin should continue to exist at all. This ongoing debate adds retrospective significance to 1982, positioning it as the final chapter of an era when copper still dominated the lowest denomination of U.S. currency. Environmental and logistical considerations also played a role in the transition, as zinc planchets allowed for lighter coins that were cheaper to produce and easier to transport in massive quantities. However, these practical benefits came at the cost of durability, as zinc cents are far more vulnerable to corrosion and damage. This contrast further elevates the status of copper 1982 pennies, which feel more solid, age more gracefully, and connect collectors to a century-long tradition of copper coinage. The global perspective cannot be ignored either, as collectors from around the world have taken interest in the 1982 penny, attracted by its complexity and the dramatic stories surrounding it. Online marketplaces and international auctions have expanded the audience, allowing a collector in one country to compete with bidders across continents. This globalization of the numismatic market increases competition and can drive prices higher, especially for coins with compelling narratives and limited supply. The 1982 penny benefits greatly from this exposure, as its story is easy to understand yet endlessly fascinating. Education continues to be one of the most powerful tools in unlocking the potential of the 1982 penny. As more resources, videos, and articles explain how to identify valuable varieties and avoid common pitfalls, the overall quality of collecting improves. This shared knowledge helps protect newcomers from scams and exaggerated claims while empowering them to make informed decisions. In this way, the 1982 penny serves not only as a collectible, but also as a gateway into deeper learning about minting processes, economics, and history. The emotional appeal of the 1982 penny lies in its balance between accessibility and mystery. Unlike rare gold coins locked away in museums, this is a coin that many people have held, spent, or ignored without realizing its potential significance. That familiarity makes discovery feel personal and intimate, as though history itself has reached out through an everyday object. Each time someone checks their change or examines an old jar of pennies, the story continues, evolving with each new pair of eyes and each new discovery. As the story moves forward, the discussion naturally drifts into the extreme edge of error collecting, where the 1982 penny becomes not just a transitional coin, but a canvas for some of the most dramatic mint mistakes imaginable. These are the types of errors that stop experienced collectors mid-sentence. Errors so visually striking that even someone with no numismatic background can immediately sense that something is wrong. In 1982, the combination of changing materials, overworked dyes, and relentless production schedules created conditions where such errors could slip through unnoticed, entering circulation and quietly waiting decades to be discovered. Among these, major off-metal strikes occupy a special place in the imagination of collectors. Although extremely rare, there have been instances where cents from other years were struck on planchets intended for different denominations or foreign coins, and the theoretical possibility of a 1982 cent struck on a wrong metal adds to the mystique. Such a coin would display abnormal weight, color, thickness, and even sound, instantly setting it apart. If a verified example were ever confirmed, especially one linked directly to the 1982 transition period, its value could redefine modern era collecting entirely, feeding directly into the legends of unimaginable prices. Equally captivating are dramatic multi-strike errors, where a coin is struck multiple times in different positions, creating overlapping images of Lincoln's profile and distorted lettering. These coins are chaotic, almost abstract, and each one is unique, which is a critical factor in determining value. Uniqueness introduces an element of irreplaceability, and in collecting, irreplaceability often translates into intense competition. A multi-struck 1982 penny that clearly shows the effects of transitional striking conditions would not just be an error coin, but a physical record of a moment when the minting process itself broke down. Die deterioration errors from 1982 also deserve special attention, as they reveal how hard the mint pushed its equipment during this transitional year. Cracked dies, shattered dies, and retained cuds created coins with raised, irregular shapes that look almost melted or damaged, yet are completely legitimate mint errors. These features often tell a story of stress and fatigue, metal meeting metal under enormous pressure until something finally gave way. Collectors who specialize in die states find these coins fascinating because they allow the reconstruction of a die's life cycle, from fresh and sharp to broken and barely functional. Another layer of intrigue comes from the subtlety of some errors that require patience and expertise to identify. Minor doubled dies, for example, may show slight separation in letters or numbers that only become obvious under magnification. In 1982, such doubled dies may have gone unnoticed by quality control teams overwhelmed by the larger challenge of switching materials. Today, these subtle errors reward careful study, turning what appears to be a normal penny into a valuable collectible once its true nature is revealed. The human element behind these errors cannot be overlooked. Mint workers were not trying to create rarities. They were doing their jobs under demanding conditions, focused on efficiency rather than perfection. The errors that collectors prize today are the unintended byproducts of human decision-making, machine limitations, and economic pressure. In this sense, every 1982 error penny is a small monument to the complexity of large-scale production, where even the most controlled systems can produce surprises. The market response to extreme errors often differs from that of standard varieties. While variety collectors may focus on completing a set, error collectors are drawn to spectacle and uniqueness. This difference in motivation can lead to dramatic price swings, especially when two collectors with different philosophies compete for the same coin. One may value historical context, another visual impact, and when both agree that a coin represents something truly special, the resulting price can far exceed traditional expectations. The role of storytelling in value creation becomes especially apparent here. A coin with a compelling narrative, such as being discovered decades after minting, authenticated against skepticism, and recognized as a product of a pivotal year, carries emotional weight that cannot be measured in grams or millimeters. The 1982 penny excels in this regard, as every error and variety is tied to a moment of transformation in U.S. coinage. This narrative amplifies interest and drives demand, turning technical details into memorable stories that long-term investors who study the 1982 penny often look beyond immediate price fluctuations and focus on scarcity trends. As coins are graded and encapsulated, populations become more clearly defined, and once a rare variety's known population stabilizes, the market can begin to assign more confident valuations. This process takes time, often decades, but it rewards patience and careful research. Those who acquired rare 1982 pennies early, before widespread awareness, have already seen significant appreciation, and some believe this trend has not yet reached its peak. The conversation inevitably returns to the future of the penny itself. If the 1-cent coin were ever to be discontinued, interest in key historical years like 1982 could intensify, as collectors seek tangible links to the denomination's evolution. The last copper penny would gain symbolic importance, and transitional years would be studied even more intensely. In that scenario, the 1982 penny would not just be a collectible, but a cornerstone of American monetary history. Technological advances also promise to reshape how collectors study and authenticate coins. High-resolution imaging, machine learning, and improved metallurgical analysis could reveal previously undetected patterns or errors, potentially identifying new 1982 varieties. This prospect keeps the field dynamic and ensures that the story is never truly finished. Each new discovery has the potential to challenge assumptions and renew excitement. As the narrative stretches even further, the focus shifts toward how myths, legends, and real discoveries intertwine until they become almost inseparable. And the 1982 penny exists exactly in that space, where fact and imagination constantly collide. Over time, every major collectible develops its own folklore. And for the 1982 1-cent coin, these stories often begin with a simple sentence like someone checking old change late at night or inheriting a jar of pennies from a relative, only to stumble across a coin that feels heavier, looks sharper, or simply seems different. These moments, repeated thousands of times across decades, have fueled a collective belief that something extraordinary is still out there waiting to be found. The psychological effect of rarity is powerful, especially when rarity is invisible. Unlike a gold coin that shines or a large silver dollar that commands attention, a rare 1982 penny hides its importance behind familiarity. This creates a unique tension where knowledge becomes more valuable than appearance. A trained collector sees potential where others see nothing, and that difference in perception is what drives both excitement and competition. The penny becomes a test of awareness, rewarding those who invest time in learning its secrets. Economic context further deepens this story. The early 1980s were a time of inflation anxiety, fluctuating metal prices, and uncertainty about the future of currency itself. The decision to alter the composition of the penny was not just about saving money, but about adapting to a world where traditional materials were no longer guaranteed to remain affordable. In hindsight, the 1982 penny captures that uncertainty in physical form, embodying a moment when the rules changed midstream and the consequences echoed far beyond the Mint-AS years past. The earliest collectors who paid attention to 1982 varieties were often dismissed as obsessing over trivial details. Yet history has repeatedly shown that such details matter. Coins once ignored have later become cornerstones of collections, and the 1982 penny has followed that trajectory. Early skepticism gave way to cautious acceptance, then to full recognition as verified examples appeared and auction prices climbed. This pattern mirrors many other numismatic milestones, reinforcing the idea that patience and curiosity often precede validation. The role of community in shaping the 1982 penny's reputation cannot be overstated. Coin clubs, online forums, and collector meetups became places where discoveries were debated, theories challenged, and evidence scrutinized. A single reported find could spark months of discussion, encouraging others to search their own collections and contribute data. This collaborative effort helped refine identification techniques and eliminate false claims, gradually separating genuine rarities from wishful thinking. Market cycles also play a crucial role in how the 1982 penny is perceived. Periods of economic uncertainty often drive interest toward tangible assets, including collectibles. During such times, rare coins benefit from renewed attention as stores of value and symbols of stability. The 1982 penny, with its combination of modern origin and historical significance, fits neatly into this narrative, appealing to both traditional collectors and those exploring alternative investments. The concept of condition scarcity becomes increasingly important as the conversation matures. While certain varieties may exist in small numbers overall, examples in top condition are often exponentially rarer. Circulation wear, improper storage, and environmental exposure take their toll over decades, leaving only a handful of coins with pristine surfaces and full original luster. These survivors become the standard bearers for their varieties, setting record prices and defining market expectations. The emotional impact of holding such a coin is difficult to convey. Knowing that a small cent represents a convergence of history, error, and chance creates a sense of connection that transcends monetary value. For many collectors, the reward is not just the potential profit, but the feeling of preserving a piece of history that might otherwise have been lost or overlooked. This sentiment explains why some owners choose to keep rare 1982 pennies rather than sell them. Even when offered significant sums, AS technology continues to influence collecting. Digital records and population reports provide unprecedented transparency. Collectors can now see how many verified examples of a given variety exist and track changes over time. This data-driven approach brings clarity but also heightens competition, as everyone becomes aware of just how limited certain coins truly are. In this environment, The 1982 penny stands out as a case study in how modern information reshapes traditional hobbies. The myth of the ultimate discovery persists, fueled by the idea that one final, perfect example remains hidden somewhere. This belief is not unique to the 1982 penny, but it feels especially plausible because of how many pennies were produced and how casually they were treated. The sheer volume creates the illusion of endless possibility, making every search feel justified, every examination worthwhile. Looking ahead, the legacy of the 1982 penny seems destined to grow rather than fade. As fewer people use cash in daily life, coins become artifacts of a changing era, and key transitional years gain symbolic weight. Future collectors may view 1982 as a defining moment, the year when tradition yielded to necessity and errors emerged as unintended witnesses to that shift. As the story continues to unfold, attention naturally turns toward the legendary discoveries that have already shaped the reputation of the 1982 penny and the quiet moments that preceded them, moments when a simple decision to look closer changed the course of someone's collecting life. Many of these discoveries did not happen in dramatic settings, but in ordinary places like kitchen tables, garages, and local banks, reinforcing the idea that rarity often hides behind routine. These accounts, passed from collector to collector, have become part of the living history of the 1982 cent, adding human depth to what might otherwise be a purely technical discussion. One particularly compelling aspect is how delayed recognition plays a role in value creation. Some rare 1982 pennies sat unnoticed for years, even decades, because the knowledge needed to identify them simply did not exist yet. Only after research advanced and specific diagnostic traits were documented did these coins emerge as significant. This phenomenon highlights how value is sometimes retroactively assigned, not because the object changed, but because understanding evolved. The penny remained the same, but human perception caught up. The process of selling a rare 1982 penny also reveals much about the dynamics of trust and reputation in the numismatic world. Owners must decide whether to approach private collectors, dealers, or public auctions, each option carrying different risks and rewards. Auctions offer visibility and competition but come with fees and uncertainty, while private sales may provide discretion and speed at the cost of potential bidding wars. These decisions are often guided by advice from experienced professionals who understand how narrative, timing, and presentation influence outcomes. Insurance and preservation become critical once a penny's value crosses from curiosity into serious asset territory. Proper storage, climate control, and professional encapsulation are essential to maintaining condition and preventing deterioration. For copper coins especially, environmental factors can dramatically affect surfaces over time. The act of preserving a 1982 penny becomes an act of stewardship, protecting not just metal but a piece of historical evidence. The educational ripple effect of high-profile discoveries cannot be ignored. Each widely reported find encourages others to learn, search, and engage, expanding the collector base and increasing overall awareness. This influx of new participants brings fresh energy but also new challenges, as misinformation can spread alongside genuine knowledge. The 1982 penny, often cited in sensational headlines, becomes a focal point for discussions about critical thinking and verification. From a macroeconomic perspective, rare coins like the 1982 penny occupy a unique niche. They are tangible, finite, and disconnected from traditional financial instruments, which can make them attractive during periods of volatility. While not immune to market cycles, their value is often supported by long-term scarcity rather than short-term speculation. This stability appeals to collectors who value both historical significance and financial prudence. The cultural narrative surrounding the penny itself continues to evolve. Once a symbol of thrift and simplicity, it now represents debate about efficiency and relevance in a digital economy. As discussions about eliminating the penny resurface, interest in historically important years intensifies. The 1982 penny, already distinguished by its transitional status, stands to gain further symbolic importance if the denomination's future changes. Another layer of fascination arises from comparative collecting, where enthusiasts study similar transitions in other countries and draw parallels. Many nations have altered coin compositions in response to economic pressures, but few transitions produced as many documented varieties and errors as the U.S. penny did in 1982. This comparison underscores the uniqueness of the event and elevates the penny's global numismatic profile. The concept of legacy also becomes central as collectors consider what will happen to their collections in the future. Rare 1982 pennies are often earmarked for specific heirs, museums, or long-term holdings, reflecting a desire to pass on not just value but knowledge and appreciation. These decisions shape how future generations will encounter and interpret the coin's story. Technological archiving ensures that discoveries are now recorded in detail, from high-resolution images to metallurgical data. This documentation creates a permanent record that future researchers can build upon, reducing the likelihood that significant varieties will be lost to obscurity again. In this sense, the 1982 penny benefits from being studied in an era of unprecedented information sharing at a deeper level. The appeal of the 1982 penny touches on themes of chance and preparedness. The idea that opportunity favors those who pay attention resonates strongly with collectors. The penny becomes a metaphor for overlooked potential, rewarding curiosity and patience rather than brute force or wealth. This philosophical dimension adds richness to its appeal, making it more than just an object of trade.